Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Identifying the inventive concept. How do you identify the inventive concept? When you are presented with an invention, either the physical invention by the inventor or the description of the invention in an invention disclosure form, how will you identify the inventive concept? Now, there are ways to do this. One is the problem solution approach, and we will be basing our lectures based on the problem solution approach. By the problem solution approach, we focus first on the problem that the invention solved, because you would expect that if you have something that can be termed as an invention, which is new, which involves an inventive step and which is capable of industrial application, then you could expect that the invention did solve some problem. And in fact, one of the determinants of inventive step in various jurisdictions, including India, is to see the problem that was solved by the invention. And if it solved a problem which was not solved before or not solved effectively before, then the patent office will presume that there is inventive step. So what do you focus on? Do you focus first on the problem or do you focus on the solution? Focusing on the solution, because the invention itself is the solution to the problem, could lead you to describing the invention as its physical embodiments are. If you focus on the solution, which is the invention itself, you may end up describing the invention as its physical embodiments, its physical parts. Whereas if you focus on the problem, the chances of you elevating the invention to a concept are much better. And there are reasons for that. So, to conceive the invention as a concept, you need to focus on the problem. Because if there are small variations or improvements to your invention, which other competitors can come up with, then if you had focused on the problem, then you may say, or you could argue, that the variant or the improvement solves the same problem which your invention is directed towards. And since you have claimed the invention as a concept, you could say that you had already envisaged that little improvement or variant into your invention. And the chances of you, or your chances of able to stop that person, could be on the higher side. So we focus on the problem first approach. So the problem first approach makes you or helps you to focus on the problem that the invention solved and not on the embodiment, because the embodiment is what would have been described in the IDF or would have been shown to an patent attorney. So the good invention solves a problem that others did not. It differs from the prior art and corrects earlier mistakes. So what you need to ask is, ask not what the invention is, but ask what is the problem that the invention solved. Now this will help you to look at a concept before drafting your claim. Now there are different approaches to drafting. One approach is to draft the claim first. So you look at the invention, describe it. So you first draft the claim and then you fill in the descriptive part. The other approach is to draft the description first. The description is first drafted, and then from the description the claim is done. The claim is kind of crafted out of the description. Now the advantages of drafting the claim first is that the claim would be for a specific embodiment. So if you draft the claim first, then you could broaden the claim. For instance, if there is mention of glue in the invention, you could broaden it to different types of glues. You can use a broader word like adhesive, and the limitations removed to the claim as broad as the prior art allows. So you can look into the prior art and see what are the limitations, and you could remove those limitations as far as the prior art will allow you to do that. And the limitations should aid in distinguishing it from the prior art. So all the limitations that you add in the claim would be with the purpose of distinguishing the prior art. So the advantage of drafting the claim first is it allows you to elevate the invention to the level of a concept. So you first draft the claim and then move towards the description. So the problem solution statement is what will be your first step to elevate the invention to the level of a concept. So you ask, what problem did the invention solve? So envisage the invention as a solution to a problem, and the problem solution approach will be to craft the first statement of the invention as a solution to a particular problem. The problem of dash was solved by the invention dash. You can fill those blanks. So let us just see, what problem did the paperclip solve? Now the paperclip solved the problem of managing papers without damaging them. Whereas if a pin or a stapler would have damaged the paper, so it solved the problem of managing papers. What problem did the pencil solve? Now it solved the problem of being able to write on hard surfaces, rough surfaces. What problem did the ballpoint pen solve? The ballpoint pen solved the problem of your ability to write with a container which could store ink. Now let's look at the ballpoint example in some detail. Now there is a patent for the ballpoint pen, one of the early patents, and the patent which is described here, you can see the figure, it's an 1888 patent. This for the ballpoint pen. Now there are certain features in a ballpoint pen. For instance, there is a cavity where the ink is stored and the cavity regulates the ink flow. There is an aperture for holding the ink, which is much different from the prior art. If the ink, if you look at pencil to be or crayon to be a prior art for the ballpoint pen, then there is no aperture for holding ink, and there is a spheroidal marking point. There's a spheroidal marking point, what is described as L in the drawing, is another feature of the invention. Now, how do you decide which would be the inventive feature for this invention? Is it the capacity to regulate ink flow? Is it the aperture for holding ink, or the spheroidal marking point? Now, it's easy for you to identify the inventive concept if you ask yourself the question, what problem did the ball pen solve? The ballpoint pen solved the problem of writing on rough surfaces, because you could not write on rough surfaces with a fountain pen. Let us assume fountain pen was the earlier prior art for this invention. The fountain pen could only write on smooth surfaces, paper. But a ballpoint pen, you could use it on rough surfaces like cardboard and on other surfaces as well. So this problem was solved by the ball pen. Now you ask yourself, what is the most critical feature for solving the problem of writing on rough surfaces? Now you will conclude that it is not regulating the ink flow, it is not the aperture for holding ink, rather it could be the spheroidal marking point. So expectedly, the claim for this pen was simply a pen having a spheroidal marking point. Now, the focus of the spheroidal marking point comes out of the problem the invention solved. So the focus should always be on what was the problem that the invention solved and what feature of the invention went to solving that problem. And you claim that feature as an inventive feature in the claim.